Foot in the stirrup and my hand on the horn, I'm the best darn cowboy ever was born, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yo, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi. Well, I started up the trail October 23rd, started up the trail with the two you heard, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi. Up every morning before daylight, and before I sleep the moon shines bright, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi. With a $10 horse and a $40 saddle, I'm going down to Texas for to punch them cattle, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yo, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi. Well, old Ben Bolt was a fine old boss, and he went to see his gal on a sore-back horse, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi. There's a stray in the herd, and the boss said kill it, so I shot him in the rump with the handle of a skillet, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi. And I went to the boss to draw my roll, and he had me figured out $9 in the hole, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi. Roping and a tying and a branding all day, I'm a-working mighty hard for a mighty little pay, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yo, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi. Well, I went to the boss and we had a little chat, and I hit him in the face with my old slouch hat, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi. With my foot in the stirrup and my hand on the horn, I'm the best dang cowboy ever was born, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi. Well, I'm gonna get married just as quick as I can, and I won't punch cattle for no darn man, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, singing ki-yi, yippee-yippee-yi. There is a man you'll hear about most every place you go, and his holdings are in Texas, and his name is Diamond Joe. Well, he carries all his money in his diamond-studded jaw, and he never was much bothered by the process of the law. Well, I hired the Diamond Joe, boys, I did offer him my hand, and he gave me a string of horses so old they could not stand. Well, I like to die the hunger, 'cause he did mistreat me so. I never earned $1 in the pay of Diamond Joe. Well, his bread it was corn dodger, and his meat I could not chaw, and he drove me near distracted with the wagging of his jaw. Why, he telling of his story, and I mean to let you know, there never was a rounder that lied like Diamond Joe. Well, I tried 3 times to quit him, boys, but he did argue so that I still am punching cattle in the pay of Diamond Joe. And when I'm called to heaven, last thing before I go, give my blankets to my buddies and give the fleas to Diamond Joe. I ride an old paint, lead an old Dan, going to Montana to throw the Julian. Feed 'em in the coulees and water in the draw. Tails are all matted and their backs are all raw. Ride around, little dogies, ride around them slow. They're fiery and snuffy and a raring to go. Old Bill Jones had 2 daughters and a song. One went to college and the other went wrong. His wife got killed in a free-for-all fight. Still he keeps singing from morning till night. Ride around, little dogies, ride around them slow. They're fiery and snuffy and are raring to go. I've worked in your town, worked on your farm, and all I got to show is the muscle in my arm. Blisters on my feet and the callus on my hand. Going to Montana to throw the Julian. Ride around, little dogies, ride around them slow. They're fiery and snuffy and raring to go. When I die, take my saddle from the wall, put it on my pony, lead him out of his stall. Tie my bones to his back, turn our faces to the west, and we'll ride the prairie that we love the best. Ride around, little dogies, ride around them slow. They're fiery and snuffy and are raring to go. Ride around, little dogies, ride around them slow. They're fiery and snuffy, are raring to go. He was a little Joe the Wrangler, he'll wrangle nevermore. His days with the remuda, they are o'er. 'Twas a year ago last April that he rode into our camp, just a little Texas strayin' all alone. His saddle was a Texas cack made many years ago, with an oak case spur on one foot lightly slung. His bedroll in a cotton sack was loosely tied behind, and his canteen o'er his saddle horn was hung. He said if we would give him work, he'd do the best he could, though he didn't know straight up about a cow. So the boss, he cut him out a mount and he kindly put him on, 'cause he sorta liked this little kid somehow. He learned to wrangle horses and know 'em all by name, and get them in by daybreak if he could. To follow the chuck wagon and always hitch the team, and help the Corsey in narrow Russell Wood. Well, we'd driven down to Pecos, the weather being fine. We camped on the south side in a bend, when a norther started blowing, and we called out every man, for it taken all us hands to hold 'em in. Well, little Joe the Wrangler was called out with the rest, although the kid had scarcely reached the herd. When the cattle they stampeded like a hailstorm, long they fled, and we was all a-riding for the lead. Well, midst the streaks of lightning, a rider we could see, it was little Joe the Wrangler in the lead. He was a-riding old Blue Rocket with a slicker o'er his head, a-trying to check the cattle in their speed. At last we got them milling and kind of quieted down, and the extra guard back to the wagon went. But there was one a-missing, and we knew it at a glance, was a little Texas stray, poor Wranglin' Joe. Next morning just at daybreak we found where Rocket fell, in a washout 20 feet below. And beneath his horse smashed to a pulp, his spur had rung the knell, was our little Texas stray, poor Wranglin' Joe. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie. These words came low and mournfully from the pouted lips of a youth who lay on his dying bed at the close of day. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie, where the coyote howls and the wind blows free, in a narrow grave just 6 by 3. Bury me not not on the lone prairie. It matters not, I've oft been told, where the body lies when the heart grows cold. Yet grant, oh grant this wish to me, bury me not on the lone prairie. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie, where the coyote howls and the wind blows free, in a narrow grave just 6 by 3. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie. He wailed in pain, and o'er his brow death's shadows fast were gathering now. He thought of his friends and his home but nigh, as the cowboys gathered to see him die. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie. These words came low and mournfully from the pouted lips of a youth who lay on his dying bed at the close of day. We took no heed to his dying prayer. In a narrow grave we buried him there, in a narrow grave just 6 by 3. We buried him there on the lone prairie. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie, where the coyote howls and the wind blows free, in a narrow grave just 6 by 3. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie. Stewball was a good horse, and he held a high head, and the mane on his foretop was fine as silk thread. I rode him in England, and I rode him in Spain, and I never did lose, boys, I always did gain. So come all of you gamblers, from near and from far, don't bet your gold dollar on that little gray mare. Most likely she will stumble, most likely she'll fall, but you never will lose on my noble Stewball. Sit tight in your saddle, let's slack on your rein, and you never will lose, boys, you always will gain. As they were riding about halfway round, that gray mare, she stumbled and fell to the ground. And way out yonder, ahead of them all, came dancing and prancing my noble Stewball. Stewball was a good horse, and he held a high head, and the mane on his foretop was fine as silk thread. I rode him in England, and I rode him in Spain, and I never did lose, boys, I always did gain. trouble in mine. I'm blue, but I won't be blue always, 'cause the sun's gonna shine in my back door someday. I'm going down to the river, take along my rocking chair, and if the blues don't leave me, I'll rock on away from there. I'll lay my head on that lonesome railroad line. I'll let the 1019 pacify my worried mind. Trouble in mine, I'm blue, but I won't be blue always, 'cause the sun will shine in my back door someday. Looky here, sweet mama, see what you have done. Why, you made me love you, now your regular man done come. Well, trouble, oh trouble, trouble on my worried mind. When you see me laughing, I'm laughing just to keep from crying. I'm gonna lay my head on that lonesome railroad line. I'll let the 1019 pacify my worried mind. Trouble, I'm blue, but I won't be blue always, 'cause the sun will shine in my back door someday. Oh, don't you remember sweet Betsy from Pike? Crossed the tall mountains with her lover Ike. 2 yoke of oxen and 1 spotted hog, a tall Shanghai rooster and a big yellow dog. Hoodle-lang, polly-dido, hoodle-lang, polly-day. They soon reached the desert where Betsy give out, and down on the sand she lay rolling about. And Ike, he gazed at her with sobs and with sighs. Quoth he, "Get up, Betsy, you'll get sand in your eyes." Hoodle-lang, polly-dido, hoodle-lang, polly-day. The Shanghai ran off and the oxen all died. And the last piece of bacon that morning was fried. And Ike got discouraged and Betsy got mad, and the dog wagged his tail and looked wonderful sad. Hoodle-lang, polly-dido, hoodle-lang, polly-day. Long Ike and sweet Betsy attended a dance, and Ike wore a pair of his Pike County pants, and Betsy come dressed up in ribbons and rings. Quoth Ike, "You're an angel, but where are your wings?" Hoodle-lang, polly-dido, hoodle-lang, polly-day. A miner stepped up, said, "Will you dance with me?" "I will, you old hoss, if you don't make too free. I'll tell you the reason, do you want to know why? Doggone you, I'm chock full of strong alkali. Hoodle-lang, polly-dido, hoodle-lang, polly-day. Long Ike and sweet Betsy got married, of course, but Ike, getting jealous, obtained a divorce. Betsy, well satisfied, said with a shout, "Goodbye, you big lummox, I'm glad you backed out." Hoodle-dang-polly-dido, hoodle-dang-polly-day. Way high up in the Sierra peaks where the yellow pines grow tall, Sandy Bob and Buster Jiggs had a round-up camp last fall. They took their horses and their running irons and maybe a dog or two, and they vowed they'd brand all the long-eared calves that came within their view. Well, many a long-eared dogie that didn't hush up by day had his long ears whittled and his old hide scorched in a most artistic way. Then one fine day said Buster Jiggs as he throwed his sea-go down, I'm tired of cow biography and allows I'm going to town. They saddles up and they hits them a lope, for it weren't no sight of a ride, and them was the days when an old cowhand could oil up his old insides. They starts her out the Kentucky bar at the head of the whiskey row, and they winds her up at the depot house some 40 drinks below. They sets her up and turns her around and goes her the other way, and to tell you the Lord forsaken truth, them boys got drunk that day. Well, as they was a-headin' back to camp and packing a pretty good load, who should they meet but the devil himself come prancing down the road. Now the devil he said, you cowboy skunks, you better go hunt your hole, 'cause I come up from the hills rim rock to gather in your souls. Said Buster Jiggs, now we're just from town and feeling kinda tight, and you ain't gonna get no cowboy souls without some kind of a fight. So he punched a hole in his old throw rope and he slings it straight and true, and he roped the devil right around the horns, he takes his dallies true. Old Sandy Bob was a reata man with his rope all coiled up neat, but he shakes her out and he builds him a loop and he ropes the devil's hind feet. They threw him down on the desert ground while the irons was a-getting hot. They corrupt and swallowed, forked his ears and branded him up a lot, and they pruned him up with a dehorn and saw and knotted his tail for a joke, rode off and left him bellowing there, necked up to a lilac jack oak. Well, if you ever travel in the Sierra Peaks and you hear one awful wail, you'll know it's nothing but the devil himself raising hell about the knots in his tail.